We are back. It's the Joe Holka Show presented by Line Movement. It is a Wednesday, so joining us as always to talk through some wide receiver sleepers. He's a reception perception creator. You know him from Yahoo Sports. Matt Harmon, how was your week 9, my man? I know you were traveling a little bit too, so how are you?
Yeah, traveling was weird. So I feel like the last couple of days, this is the first time I've ever had a Sunday off. And obviously flying back on Monday too. I missed that barn burner of a game between the Patriots and the Jets. Actually, did turn out to be more interesting, I guess, than people thought. But this is the first Sunday that I've had off in my entire career. So it was kind of fun to just kind of sit on the couch and watch football as a fan for a little bit and not have to worry about jumping on podcasts, jumping on shows, whatever. But now I almost feel like the last couple of days have been like, okay, whirlwind, catch me up on everything. Let me listen to all the pods. Let me go through all the numbers again, try to get back on this, because like 1 week just makes such a difference in the NFL slate that you fall behind and you could feel like it's a totally different reality you're coming back to.
Yeah, you're in catch-up mode, man. That's almost worse than being on the grind. It's being on the grind and getting like this weird, like small, taste of reality, and then trying to get back into it. It's almost worse, man. That's rough. I feel for you a little bit. But man, you're in a little bit of a different area right now. I'm digging your background and your quality and all that stuff right now, man. I guess Reeves completely upgrades his video and his lighting and all that stuff to be on the show, and now you're just in this completely different set. What's going on?
This is actually the same room. I'm just using a different camera because I haven't fully set up my my area here again yet. But that, and again, that is the pain of traveling. It's like, okay, this is tough to get back to normal, man. But no, same little plant in the background, and little baby Yoda figure back there too. So it's pretty much the same thing, just a little bit different angle.
All right, right on. It looks good, man. I'll say this. We were just talking about Carolina and Tampa Bay because for some reason DraftKings just went all the way back to Stone Min on the pricing for Mike Davis, which seems really odd. I get that it's a bad matchup and all that stuff, but he's going to be super chalky. So I guess we'll kind of frame it like this. I know we want to talk a little bit about the Panthers wide receivers today. DJ Moore is 5,100. Curtis Samuel is 4,900. It looks like no Christian McCaffrey this week. The popular route is he's going to play Mike Davis at the Stone Min 4K. But if we want to get a little bit different and go to some of these pass catchers, what are your thoughts about DJ Moore, Curtis Samuel? Obviously, Robbie Anderson priced up a little bit more. He's still kind of garnering a lot of the air yards in this offense overall. But this is kind of your area, man. I know you love your boy Curtis Samuel, and he's looked great.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think playing Davis even in a bad run defense matchup makes sense because they're going to use Davis as an outlet receiver, just like they use McCaffrey. They proved that while McCaffrey is out. But I think that's kind of the key important part of this. And Robbie Anderson is priced up, like you said, deservedly so. The target gap between Moore and Anderson has only grown. He's at 80 targets on the season. Moore is at 62. And that's just been more and more apparent the farther we've gone on the season. It's also like Robbie Anderson's slot routes have increased over the last few weeks as well. It's just been clear they want to get the ball in his hands as quickly as possible because he does have those quick separation skills like we highlighted. I feel like we talked about that a few weeks ago. He's not just a downfield route runner. I think this year in Carolina has proven that. But that sort of brings me to the point on this whole matchup. Like DJ Moore is very tempting at a 5,100 price tag. Because that's probably the lowest you might ever get him. It's certainly like playing him last year would have been a dream to get him at this cost because of where he was, the level he's playing at last year. But I feel like against this Bucks defense, like going into last week, I felt like they were probably one of the best, if not the best defenses in the NFL. Extremely balanced unit, good secondary that's opportunistic when they get home with the blitz. But that's the key point. This team blitzes a lot, but they don't get a lot of pressure with their front four. And that was extremely apparent watching Drew Brees play these guys last week. If they get the ball out quick, their pass rush is not good enough from just a Shaq Barrett, JPP perspective, certainly in Domkins and the guys up the middle. They don't have that front four pass rush to get home. And I feel like that is an advantage for a guy like Curtis Samuel, who's cooking right now, who's playing extremely well. He has the lowest ADOT of these top three receivers, and Moore has the highest by over 2 yards over Robbie Anderson. So I get, and I mean, again, I think Moore is sort of in consideration because of just the attractive price tag. He might make a good GPP play because of that. But Samuel, as he's gotten healthy, and it's worth remembering that he was injured in camp, as he's gotten healthier, he's become more and more of a figure in this offense. And I think he's not really eating into Robbie Anderson's role at all, but he is eating into DJ Moore's target total at least.
It's interesting because he kind of is seeing almost like a Tavon Austin-esque type of usage, like because he's getting so much work as a runner right now. So how do you
Yeah.
even begin to break down like those type of? I guess like the floor is obviously increased with those type of touches
Yes.
for sure. But yeah, I'm with you. I think, but both these guys could end up being relatively contrarian this week with Mike Davis being chalky. So I'm with you on that. Let's move on to your next one though, because this is one that I think that at least 3 or 4 people have brought up in chat already today, and straight Jalen Rieger. And I believe that's how you say his name. I'm pretty sure I always say it wrong. I might have actually backed into saying it right for the first time ever. But this Eagles team, close to a healthy offensive line, close to a healthy skill position group around Carson Wentz for what feels like the first time in a very long time. Rieger is 4,200. So tell me your thoughts on him.
Yeah, I've been extremely impressed with Travis Fulgham. Like, I think that guy's legit. Shout out to ODU's finest, Travis Fulgham, no doubt about it. But at the same time, Rager, man, he looks good whenever he's out there, and I think he's an explosive player. I actually think he benefits from being sort of a second fiddle to Fulgham, especially in this matchup, because I think if we've done our path, unless it's Terry McLaurin, who's a stud and kind of roasts everybody, our path to attacking the Giants has always been the guy that's going to see the fewest routes against James Bradbury, who's been their best corner all year, and really like I typically I'm kind of iffy about the wide receiver cornerback matchup, like grand debate as it is. But one spot where I really think it does make sense is when that first cornerback and that second cornerback, there's a large gap there between the quality of players. And for me, I think that does exist with these New York Giants. And that really does bring me to a guy like Rager, who's probably going to run those routes away from Bradbury, who is that explosive player. I love that, like, as soon as he was healthy, he got right involved and got in the mix. And I agree with you, man. Like, this Eagles team, I'm sitting there last time we saw them on Sunday Night Football against the Cowboys, like, man, why can't you just be normal? Why can't, because you've got the guys now at this point, Carson Wentz. Like, you've got Fulgham playing like a good outside X receiver. You've got Rager as that strong flanker. Like, Greg Ward isn't a total slouch as a slot receiver. And then Dallas Goedert is back. And I think Goddard's a guy that if you're in season long leagues, you should still try to trade for. I think he could be a clear top 5 tight end the rest of the way. It's really just up to Carson Wentz, who is slinging the ball downfield. I think he's number 2 behind Drew Lock in terms of air yards per pass attempt. Like, there's that vertical element there, which fits well with a guy like Jalen Rieger. I do think because he's just so cheap, he seems like a perfect guy to throw out on this slate.
Just be normal, Carson Wentz. Please, just be normal
Yeah.
once. So I'm with you on that one, man. This next one, it's turning into like the all reception perception segment today, because I know this is another one of your guys, Rashard Higgins, 4,600. I mentioned a lot of people talking about Rager in the chat, but also a lot of people talking about Jarvis Landry in the spot. No one really talking about Nick Chubb yet. Obviously, he's looking to return this week. The run game is what they want to do well. But if we're looking in at the passing game here, tell me why you like Rashard Higgins this week.
Well, I mean, I think we should be excited about Nick Chubb
Mm-hmm.
because the Texans, they're just one of the stone worst run defenses in the NFL. They rank 28th in terms of defending the run by Football Outsiders. Like, they just got crushed again last week. They've been getting crushed routinely as a rush defense. So I think if Nick Chubb, who, by the way, like, I think since we've seen Kareem Hunt kind of take over this feature back role, he's gone 23 touches to 16 touches to, back. It's been sort of alternating. I think we've seen that there's a gap between Kareem Hunt and Nick Chubb. I think Nick Chubb's presence will make the rushing game better. He's still the league leader in terms of guys that are over 50 carries in yards after contact per attempt, rushing yards over expectations per next gen stats. I think he's going to come back and make this offense better. If he comes back in this spot, this is an immediate smash spot for Nick Chubb. But I also think it's a good time to buy this passing game low because Houston's not that much better as a pass defense, right? Like, they can still absolutely get thrown all over too. And I love the Jarvis Landry call. I think he's a good, safe floor play. But we talked about Higgins on the show a couple of weeks ago. Hopefully people got off that game by the time we realized on Sunday that there's going to be a literal tornado almost over the Cleveland Browns stadium. But I think it's a good time to buy back in on a guy like Higgins, who I think, the periphery was all there for Higgins in that game. Obviously, the results against the Raiders was bad because of that weather. But I think this is a good spot against a bad team that, by the way, they're another team that, we don't know Bradley Roby's status at this point. He hasn't been healthy of late, but he's a guy they used to track number 1 receivers around the field. But there's a big gap between, and I don't even think Roby's that good of a player, but I mean, he's a guy that there's a big gap between him and the next player on the Texans cornerback depth chart. So Higgins in this spot, it's a good one to like buy back in on him.
Yeah, I don't think there's a worse thing in terms of like talking about a GPP than being like, yeah, he's a fine floor play. Talking about Jarvis Landry, so I got a kick out of that one, Harmon. So this next one, this is probably not a floor play if we're just talking about some of these guys that I know you like, but also this guy's pretty cheap as well. Everyone wants to talk about Jerry Judy, this coming out party, 341 air yards over his last 2 weeks, being moved out of the slot. Obviously, kind of similar to that Justin Jefferson situation where he's really done well in that role, but KJ Hamler just sitting there at 3,800 on DraftKings, ran a route on 70% of the dropbacks last week, saw 10 targets, 109 air yards in his regard as well. So what do you think about your boy KJ Hamler? I'm interested in this, especially at that price. These are the type of guys that I think have a ton of upside, even if he is playing a little bit more in the slot now.
I was going to mention that, the exact stat that you said about how much he's been running a route on Drew Lock's drop back. By the way, I mentioned earlier Carson Wentz number 2 in terms of air yards per attempt on his throws. Nobody is throwing downfield at a higher rate than Drew Lock. Now, Drew Lock is not always throwing down the field effectively. I'm not so sure that Drew Lock
that is a problem.
That good of a quarterback. Yeah, that might be a problem. But I agree with you. I thought it was a little curious that in the start of the year, maybe it was because they were playing some backup quarterbacks. They had Jerry Judy as that primary slot receiver, and then they kind of had Hamler as the outside speed guy. I don't really know that makes a ton of sense because Judy, as we saw, everybody's seen the clip of him running that curl route, snapping back to the quarterback. Like, that is who Jerry Judy is. He is a pristine route runner. He can separate outside. Sure, he can work the slot, and I think you got to get him some reps there because it's advantageous to use great receivers in the slot, but he can dictate coverages on the outside of the field. And I think using Hamler as that speed slot guy, think about during the Andrew Luck years, what they would do with T.Y. Hilton sometimes. I think that makes a good role for KJ Hamler. And yeah, I agree with you. Explosive guy, super fast. And I think, he's not Jerry Judy's level, but I do think he's underrated as an overall technician. He can really run that, Julio Jones, Stephon Diggs patented blaze out route. I think we could see a lot of that against a Vegas team that is, still not intimidating at all whatsoever as a defense.
Love it, man. Matt Harmon. Everyone make sure you follow him. I'm sure you are already, but Matt Harmon _BYB on Twitter. Hey, man, have a great week 10. I know you're not traveling this week, so you can get back into normalcy and all that good stuff. But great show, man. I'll see you next week.
Thanks, Joe. I can promise you that my week 10 will be a lot more normal than Carson Wentz's because, as we said, just be normal. Just once.
Sounds good, man. I'll talk to you later.